Hey, welcome back to another episode of Heavy Rotation, a tribute to Cleveland metal and beyond. We're going beyond right now, as it were, with Sasha. And I don't want to butcher your name, man. Can you go ahead and say it loud and proud?
Hey, Sasha Chrosciewicz of Gorgasm here. How's it going?
I'm super thankful to have you here, brother. Um, Big fan.
Pleasure, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man. You're a hell of a guitarist, man. You're
Oh,
real.
thank
You're a very cool, down to earth guy, and that in itself is just like very inspiring, man. I think you know there's plenty that we can talk about, so we can just sort of dive right in and without doing like a whole big like introduction. I think most folks would be really interested to hear, how you linked up with Gorgasm and start working with those cats.
you. Yeah, so they're just one of my favorite bands. I just, idolized, worshiped the band like Suffocation or Morbid Angel. So I had a chance to play with them in NRW, a smaller festival in Würzburg in Germany, and I think it was like 2011, something like that. I was supposed to play with a band called Abuse out of Vancouver, but we didn't have a drummer. And despite that, us not being able to play, I went as a fan with a member of the band of Abuse. We both went as a fan. And Gorgasm, I mean, you were talking about me being down to earth. I mean, that was one of the most humbling experiences was meeting Gorgasm and Defeated Sanity. And they were just normal dudes. Like it's people like them and like Diego Disgorge. Shout out to him. Lots of other people. The list could just go on forever. But there's one thing that's a constant in the underground is that um, it's very much a people first thing, as much as it's all about music. Like, there's a lot of amazing people where, they'll put on like the craziest show and then they'll walk off stage like it was nothing. And they're like, long story short, when I met Gorgasm, they're more like almost happier to meet me because they're like, wow, you flew out from Canada, that's crazy. But that was just the commitment I had to this music, even though I wasn't affiliated with the band. I was trying to do that with Abuse, right? So that energy, that sort of um, you know wanting to play this type of music, you sacrifice and do what you can. And yeah, we became friends through that festival, stayed in touch. And then I think a couple years later, I did a Gorgasm cover of Bleeding Profusely, and Damien and the guys shared it like, hells yeah, giving me props for. And looking back, the notation wasn't perfect, but I was definitely down picking and trying to do it. And lo and behold, when Ryan was unable to continue with the band, they considered me. I was the first person, so I'm forever humbled by that, and it's still surreal. Like, I try to not say it, but I've said it so much over the years that I still can't believe I'm in my favorite band. And it's just kind of one thing my dad told me was like, remember all those times you wanted to quit, and when you can't find musicians, it's insanity. You're just trying the same thing over and over again, but you're not getting different results. So I've wanted to quit death metal over and over again, but for something, something about it with the passion and the music, you just keep going. And, um, and then I ended up in Gorgasm. So it's just one of those things like, never give up. It sounds super corny, but it's true.
Yeah, man. I mean that is amazing. You know, to well, it's almost like that movie Rockstar or something, where it was like based off Judas Priest.
Sure.
But like I mean, almost kind of sort of, but like since they saw your video and then you already had met them, right? So, there was already a
Yeah.
bit of a connection.
Yeah. And to tap into that, I think that was a big part of it is we obviously hit it off on a personal level, but you don't want to get in a band with people that you just can't hang, you can't foresee the personalities meshing. So, I'm just humbled by that as well, that they thought I was just, a decent enough person, and they could see I was trying to be professional at the time, even though I wasn't at that level. They trusted in my work ethic, and yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool. And beyond the music, man, like, doesn't matter what rendition of the band I've been in, we are great friends, and I feel like we've all hit the jackpot, because it's hard enough to just find people that you can play this type of music with, or have similar influences or abilities that mesh. But just on a personal level, just like, there's never conflict. We all just accommodate and just try to be good to one another. And um, that's a pretty special thing with Gorgasm, is that attention to, the family of Gorgasm. And shout out to previous members too. They're all amazing people, and that I've met. I haven't met the original guys from way back in the day, but yeah, it's pretty special.
For sure, man. And then, were you already um, comfortable with playing, such technical music and also singing, or um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I came up just all my favorite bands. Sorry to interject. I kind of cut you off
no, it's all
slightly,
good.
but all my favorite bands, like the old school death metal stuff, a lot of them were just the singers. And even before I was into death metal, like, Metallica, Megadeth, those guys sang. I'm like even early on, like, I loved classic rock. I started with that, but once I got into thrash, I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to sing. Like, I already knew that, because in high school, like, no one was into the music I was into. Like, maybe a couple people, but like, they're into Lamb of God and other stuff, which is cool. But yeah, so I just had that mentality. And even before I played metal, I was thinking I had to sing, with the classic rock shit. Like, I was playing, one of the first songs was that I tried singing over was Paranoid, Black Sabbath. And it's almost like the perfect song to start with, even though the syncopation between vocals and guitar, it's a weird cadence. Like, it's not like da da, like, it has a weird like flow. But and like Led Zeppelin Communication Breakdown, like, I was trying to sing over that and down pick it. And so yeah, with the metal stuff, it's just you just got to really slow it down. I usually separate them. I'll do guitar, I'll do the vocals, and then I very slowly word it as I'm riffing. Not necessarily growling right away. I'll just be enunciating the riffs. And even for writing songs, I'll have the lyrics or whatever we're trying to do. And this is with Vacuous as well. And I'm like, oh shit, like, I actually have to be able to play this. So it's one thing to like compose the music and then put the vocals after, but then there's a whole dissection of like, okay, this sounds badass, but can I actually do it? You know?
Yeah, man, and I just have so much respect for that. Like anybody, whether it's death metal or that can play well, that can do more than one thing, because you just that just brings so much to the table, right? And um even like going like way outside of death metal, you think of like was like the Eagles, or like some of these bands, they just have like great like vocal harmonies and stuff, because everybody
Yep.
had that capability. Um, but I mean, like, I'm at that point with metal, like death metal stuff. I'm writing like, because I end up writing lyrics, and then a singer, uh, you would think, you would hope, like, hey, let me just hire you and pay you like $100, $200, and can you just like do these vocals the way I want you to do it? That's kind of like not been the easiest thing for me, even when there's money involved. And I get it, because it's like it's a voice. It's not just like it's your voice is a little more finicky than like
Yeah.
you putting
And
your
it's like,
hands on an instrument.
yeah, and to tap into what you're saying, it's like even a drummer, the infamous endless unplayable drum tracks that guitar players will write, and then drummers are like, "You fucking asshole." Oh, sorry, I didn't know if you can
You,
swear on here.
uh,
Sorry,
dude,
but
you're
yeah,
good. It's just
that's what
not.
they. Yeah, I'll keep it down. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like in a nutshell, it's the same thing with vocals. Like, you can write something out and it makes sense and whatever, but maybe that person doesn't have the flow of it. Maybe they can do it, but even then, it still doesn't sound right. Like and a lot of music, it's not even about having certain speeds or the greatest riff. It's that it factor where you can't really put your finger on it. And that's why even like simple music's like just as hard to write. Like a simple riff or a simple melody, whatever style of music, it's super hard because it had like what sticks. And one thing that's kind of the scary thing is you'll write something and then you come back 2 days later and you're like, oh my god, I don't even like it anymore. And that's because maybe it doesn't have that it factor. So and with you're talking about hiring vocalists, like yeah, that's extremely difficult, and I'm all over the place. But I always think like tattoo artists, like you can have like this great idea and you want them to do this and do that, but some tattoo artists are just great at koi fish,
Yeah.
and you just get them to do it, what they're good at, and you just or vocalists, you give them more free reign, like do what you want, because um and it's funny, like you give me a great compliment about vocals, but I look at other vocalists and like I can't even imagine how they do what they do. Like I did a small Arse Breed cover where I had to do the vocals, and like just the cadence of how Robbie does vocals, completely different because he's an actual vocalist. He's not having to play guitar. And that's a thing actually Tony for Gorgasm had, is as much as he was a bass player, he had like a great knack for like a vocalist approach to Gorgasm, where like Damien and I might like really stack syllables over the rhythms of the riff. Tony would have a different flow. And yeah, I'm all over the map with this tangent, but it's just cool to understand kind of the inner workings of what works for you, and then trying to bridge that gap for other musicians, I guess.
No, I'm like right there with you. I really enjoy the sentiment that you were just on of like, if you think about like Cryptopsy, and like, the way that some of those vocals are because, that
Oh yeah.
they're not tethered to an instrument. And then like, trying to as a someone who has the responsibility of both like trying to
Yeah.
like, get in those offbeat spaces and, like there's definitely some growth to have
Yeah,
there,
and
Yeah, yeah.
to tap into what you're saying, you mentioned Cryptopsy, and I was just thinking of like that barbaric, like, because I was thinking of Crown of Horns, where it's just like a hyper blast, and he's like rah, 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 like he's like a barking dog, but it's so different from the rhythm. And you think like before Cryptopsy, what was like the most abrasive vocals, like Deicide and shit, where like as much as it was crazy over the top primitive, there was like a flow to it. And then Cryptopsy just came out of nowhere, and they're just like coming at it at a completely different level of intensity too. So it's cool to understand the building blocks of just the chronological progression of death metal. And that's the beauty of like the old school shit. That's why I listen to it more than modern stuff, is just because every band just did it a certain way, and everyone was listening to each other, but they're all just kind of innovating in their own ways. And any era of music or metal has that kind of those moments where bands are just doing it. And that's kind of the hard part. Like you're talking about hiring a vocalist, it's like it's hard because you're not in a room with a person. And that's something that Gorgasm had trouble with. We did our EP, but we were spread out. Matt Kilner was in California, and it worked out. The EP worked out, but every Gorgasm album has been organically made in a room. Like Damien and Derek Hoffman and Tangelos, they're all in a room day after day, like Suffocation, just playing all the time, writing the sickest shit they could. And since the inception of Gorgasm, every album has been a continuation of that, except the EP. So it takes the natural flow of the band and it made it a little disjointed because we're all spread out now. But luckily, we're able to go back to the source with our new drummer Tom, who's back in the band. He was in the band for a minute, and I think '06 to '08 or somewhere in between there. But he's in the same city as Damien. They're in the same room. They're hashing everything out. They've written a full album. Tom actually just finished recording drums a week ago, and they went on a little vacation to get away. But it's cool because that is what Gorgasm is. And the Sadicist EP was cool. We love the songs, but it's still Gorgasm, but it's not the same. And that's what's so exciting about Gorgasm is we're going back to the roots of the band, but we're incorporating where we are at now as musicians. So it's a new chapter of Gorgasm, but it's like a maturity of the sound as well. Yeah.
100%, man. So in the present times of like, the songs coming together, since you are well, I just want to clarify. So you said like with the newer material, are you guys able to um get in the same room, or is you're still collaborating remotely, or?
I collaborate remotely.
Mm-hmm.
We've written a few sections in person, like say I'll do a show in Chicago, and then we literally jammed for like an hour, like the following day and wrote one or two sections, because we had pre-existing ideas we knew of. And but yeah, the majority of the material and songwriting is Damien. He's kind of the wizard of the band. He is the guru of songwriting, and the sound of Gorgasm is through his hands. As much as I play it too and contribute what I can, Damien's the original member. He's the guy, and it's kind of like Diego with Disgorge, Terrence with Suffo, so forth. So I am lucky though. I've shown him riffs, and they are making their way onto this album. And there's a few full sections that I've written, and that's kind of insane for me to realize that I'm collaborating and being a part of it. But I got to hand it to Damien. He's the guy. He's the sick motherfucker. So
Yeah. Yeah, we could curse just because just to whatever, just it the whole
sorry.
thing. No, you're good, dude. Like it's funny. If you were in the, if you were if you were here, or if I could, uh, I don't want to move the camera because that'll just be. But like I have like this poster above me, and the station manager. I was up here earlier, like getting some stuff dialed in because they got new computers. But it's we were laughing about it because he has like this whole thing of like, well, words you're not supposed to say. Some are like very obvious, but like it's it says piss as in pee. So like
Yeah.
it's like you could say, oh, that really took the piss out of me, but like you can't like
Don't say piss
take
off.
t-
Don't say piss
take
off.
a
Maybe.
piss. I don't know, but like it's yeah. So and he's like, yeah, he's like, you know what? Most of this you actually can say, but it's just like the very obvious things. You know, it
Context.
if yeah, I mean, it's just out of respect. The thing too with my show is like it's no one's here. Like it's this is a community college, and it's what time is it here? It's like 8. It's almost 8:30. Um, in we're close to Cleveland, Ohio, Kirtland, Ohio. But anyway, they kind of have them rules too, because like there's students that are going here, and then this would be, I don't know if they could get a class credit for it or whatever, but like they might be doing their show in the middle of the day, and there's like teachers, admins walking around, and then someone is
Hmm.
just like just cussing a lot. That it's kind of for that.
No, I
Anyway,
get it.
anyway though, nah, dude, it's all good. Oh yeah, so here we this is a good chance to tie in with Mulciber. Um, so yeah, Mulciber was on the show, and then Bill, who you've met, the bassist, his I didn't even notice it till after the fact, but like right now, like on the screen it says Matthew Brown, and then it says Sasha. Like, he instead of putting his name, he put Dixie Enormous, or
Oh,
Dixie Enormous. So it said DIXIE NORMOUS, and I was like, I don't know, I got a good laugh out of that, but I didn't even notice it till I was editing the video. It was just like a little Easter egg.
And he, yeah, that's pretty clever.
So yeah, good tie-in since the show is
Yeah,
like about.
shout out to those guys, man. They were kind enough to reach out to me, and I did a one-off show in Reykjavik, Iceland, about 3 years ago now, and I just did lead vocals for their band. And shout out to Ingo, the promoter in Iceland, and he came on stage and we did um, Eaton Bloodbath cover. So him and I did that song. But yeah, it was weird. I've never just been a vocalist, for anything, metal or non metal music. But yeah, it was kind of, it's like the John Gallagher with Suffo thing. Like he didn't know what to do with his hands. Like it was the same thing for me. Like I was just kind of standing there, like you're just used to holding the guitar and having to play. So that was kind of funny. And but yeah, it was a great experience to hang with those guys. And thanks again for the show. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So did they just hit you up like, hey, we think you're sick, man. Will you come on this tour? Like you never had any interaction with them before? Or?
No, I met them in Pittsburgh, and yeah, we didn't play with them, but a few of the members were there when Gorgasm played, and I think Postmortal Possession, and also just it's a weird name, Disgrunting the Anthropophagy. Anyways, shout out to those guys because you make friendships along the way. So yeah, that Pittsburgh show we played, and fucking yeah, we met a couple of the Mulsberg guys and hit it off with them, and then they reached out to me for this show, and it just kind of happened. So
Hell yeah. Was that the first time you've been over to Iceland?
yeah, yeah, Iceland's pretty wild. Yeah.
Um, it seems to me that the energy of um, doing these like European shows um is perhaps a bit more intense in a good way, like that maybe they're not necessarily have so many bands coming through, or um yeah, like a stereotype, but a good stereotype, just kind of like that European people, like not just with metal, they really appreciate bands coming through. Did you get that vibe? Or
Yeah, I find Europe and almost, I mean, lots of places other than North America, like they just appreciate the arts differently, like in the sense that they may not be into what you're doing, but they'll acknowledge metalheads more. Where like in North America, you're just kind of like, oh, you're just one of those guys that plays metal. Where I don't know, when I was like NRW, my first time going to a metal fest when I met Gorgasm, like the locals at that town, you could just tell they like respected you. Even though they weren't into you into the music at all, there was like a different thing. But that's very much European because they're they're centuries, millennia old. They've been around for millennia, whereas North America is just a few hundred years. So I think
hmm.
there's just a cultural difference overall. And North America is very much live to work, and Europe, as much as there's a lot of expensive places too, a lot of people work to live. So it takes on a completely different lifestyle. And there's more holiday, there's like distinctive holiday seasons in Europe. So if you're touring Europe, for example, there's certain months that you probably shouldn't tour there because people aren't going to even be around. They just take off and go to different parts of Europe or wherever. So that's just my random tangent on Europe. And yeah, the fans are nuts. They get crazy. But I mean, American fans get crazy too. Like Texas and moshing, they go bonkers. And you know, yeah, it's all just people are people, right? So you get all types.
Oh yeah, yeah. Certainly not meant in any way to slight our brethren here
No,
in the U.S. or in Canada. So you're in L.A. or you're in Canada? You're in Canada, right?
Vancouver. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
definitely not in LA. Our traffic is not as bad as LA. That's for sure. We
Have,
complain about it, but yeah, I'm just north of Seattle. It's pretty much the main, you know, main city, western city of Canada, and we have a lot of amazing bands that come out of here. A lot of old school bands, Abuse, Zuckus, Tendonitis. I'm gonna forget so many names, but yeah, there's a lot of like old school heads that Blasphemies from here, and then up until like Archspire, Unleash the Archers. There's a lot of modern bands that are super successful. Someone told me that Spirit Box is from the island. I don't even know if that like Vancouver Island. I don't know them, but I know they're like a really popular kind of deathcore band. So Angel Makers from here. There's a lot of amazing musicians and successful metal bands from this city. Yeah.
hell yeah. And then I think First Fragment is from Canada, somewhere
They're out
abouts.
in Montreal though.
Montreal. Okay, yeah, not Vancouver.
Yeah, yeah, but
Um,
there's endless bands from Montreal. Yeah,
right on, dude. But yeah, shout out to Vancouver. Um, yeah, dude, the vacuous stuff is, and we talked about a little bit like before the official interview started. Like, I really enjoy what I heard from it, man.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and then so you from from what I gather, you did the majority of the vocals. It said there was like some guest vocalists on it.
Yeah, I think there's only one. I think it's
It
dude from
said,
Blasphemer. He did Brain Trauma, but I had three drummers. That's the weird thing is I did everything, all vocals, all guitar, all bass, but the the guest vocalist we had, his name escapes me. I think it's Marco.
well,
I
I
could be
have it.
totally.
Oh yeah, all good. I have some, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off at the end. I have on the
Hope I didn't get his name wrong.
eternal continuum hallucination.
Hallucination. Yeah, that's the
It
full.
says Paolo.
Paulo. I got his
My
name wrong.
uh
Italian. His name must be Marco. I'm just kidding. I
Marco.
know like
Maybe you're thinking like Marco Polo, whatever.
no, I know like numerous Marcos that are Italian. So, sorry, Paulo, man. I haven't thought about this album in
Well, this
eight
was
to 10 years.
it. Yeah, it
Yeah,
says 2016, so that's about right.
yeah. So in a nutshell, I recorded. I wrote a lot of that in the studio. Like I had the skeleton of the songs, and I don't know what I was thinking, getting like multiple drummers, but Sam Santiago, former Gorod, was in Vancouver. And
Mm.
I don't know if he did a post like, hey, anybody for session stuff, but I hit him up and did a song, did God Complex in one day. And then I did three songs with Kevin Talley, three songs with Lila Gruber. And like, I don't even know what I was thinking, why I would get multiple drummers. I just liked all those drummers. And then I was like, oh shoot. Um, which songs do I get them to do? And then I had to like arduously figure out which ones for who. And then I was like, oh great, like the song order on the album is gonna be so all over the place with different drummers. I'm like, oh geez. So yeah, would I have done things differently? I don't know. I like the results. But in a nutshell, I pretty much took tech death, but I wanted to make it death metal. Like I wanted to be super rhythm heavy, like Gorgasm, technical. But then I went progressive song structures where like songs would be long, and it's cool, but it's very much a studio album. Whereas the new Vacuous album I've been sitting on forever that I'm trying to finish up, have I've had setbacks over the years, but that's more oriented for playing live. Like there's more traditional songwriting, but I'm more pumped on this than the first album. It's just I don't want to just release it with session musicians. I want to have local guys and be able to play this stuff live because I wrote the new Vacuous to play it live because the first stuff is cool, but it wasn't the great for live. Like there's songs that were cool and parts that are cool, but I don't know, certain types of music are great for listening. You know, like Pink Floyd, I listen to at 2 a.m. when no one's around and it's raining out. You know, death metal I want to see live. And Vacuous was cool, but the new album I'm going to be finishing up hopefully within a year or so. It's just going to be way better, I think. So I'm really pumped on that. But yeah, going back to the first album, I recorded all the bass, all the harmonies, all the solos, like just showing up to Gab Sung, the engineer. I just showed up at his place and I had no idea what I was doing. I would just literally pick up the instrument and just play something and then just start recording ideas. So that whole first Vacuous album is very spur of the moment as far as the harmonies, and all the leads were improvised, and some of them were like the first take, and I'm like, okay, well that has like an it quality to it. I'm just gonna leave it, and
Oh,
yeah,
that's a really cool insight into it, man. Um, yeah, that's awesome. And having Lily and Kevin Talley, um,
crazy, yeah.
yeah, I mean, and you know, I'm just not as familiar with the other drummer, but
San
yeah,
Diego,
same,
yeah.
yeah, but no, I mean, it's just excellent work, man. And then it seems
Appreciate
like
it.
the other one, then you have an EP that was well, that was preceding it, I guess,
Yeah,
2015.
that was just a couple songs, like a promo,
Mm-hmm.
and because I invested so much in the drummers, I like re-released those songs because I was like, oh shoot, do I get new songs? I'm like, well, I don't have money, so I'm just gonna piece those few songs into the album. And I
Yeah.
remember seeing a comment, someone's like, oh, there's like three of the songs from the EP are on the album. I'm like, yeah, sorry, you know, it's all I could afford at the time. But yeah, it's, I mean, in its own way, I never would have gotten into Gorgasm or any of these bands if I didn't do Vacuous. And Vacuous only started because when I recruited Lord Marco for Abuse, I started paying him money for the album, and then I got caught up in money and they didn't want to pay me back. And so I just was like, okay, Marco, I'm gonna do Vacuous, and then he just never recorded drums for me. So I was like, oh, whatever, I'll just hire other drummers. It was just a mess with that band. So I was like, well, I just still like this music. I might as well do it. And because of Vacuous, that's what got me into Incinerate in its own way too. Um, I did just some live session with Incinerate because my friend Matt Kilner joined, and I really wanted to play with Matt Kilner and the Incinerate guys. And sure enough, when I got offered the Gorgasm thing, I brought Matt Kilner over because I just couldn't believe how good of a drummer he was. And there's a lot of other drummers that could have played in Gorgasm, but that's the guy we went with. And I think it was a good choice. I mean, I wasn't forcing it. It was more Damien didn't know Matt, so he put a lot of trust in me to have Kilner come on board. And shout out to Matt Kilner. Thanks for playing those shows, man. And shout out to the Incinerate guys. That's still some of the hardest material I've ever played. And there's one song, Depravity, where anytime we played it, Matt and I would just look at each other because there's this weird like improv drum part, and it's just so hyper fast and disjointed and weird. And we're just hoping to not train wreck. And super random. Incinerate, we played a couple shows in Canadian Royal Mountie costumes, like the red like cop
Yeah, I can.
outfits.
sort of picture that.
Yeah, it was the most ridiculous thing, but it was hilarious because Montreal, the fans thought we were like mocking them, so they're getting really mad.
Oh dang.
It's funny.
Yeah. With I was listening to the Gorgasm EP. What did you say? Sadicus? Would that be the okay? And just thinking, and what you said about that it was recorded remotely, and you can hear some really cool. It's definitely not all through at the same BPM.
Hmm.
I was curious as to how that went. Like, if there were click tracks for some things and then other parts just
Yeah,
not, or if how did that go?
this is a great question because every single Gorgasm recording has been without a click except this one. Because when we realized with drums and Matt is that we're like, well, shoot, how are we going to write the drums? And we ended up doing kind of Guitar Pro stuff where that's Matt's a huge Guitar Pro guy, so he would just pretty much write whatever ideas for drums and then send them back to us. And for Nithing and his other band Iniquitous Deeds, that's what he's always done. He'll compose the drums. And because of his experience doing that, that's kind of what Gorgasm did. And we recorded the clicks and or made mapped out the click tracks and went that route. And that's some of the fastest stuff. I think the Carnal Demise, the first track, it's like around 300, maybe even faster. And he might have been doing trade-off blasts. I'm not too sure. I don't remember what he said. But that's a song that Tom wants to play, and the hard part is the vocals on that are so crazy. Shout out to Kyle, former drummer, Kyle and Tony from Orgy of Murder and Destined to Violate. The two guys with Ryan Saylor, shout out to him as well. They resurrected Gorgasm. They were Sadicist, so they were doing Sadicist with Damien, and then they played CIM, and everyone's like, "You guys just sound like Gorgasm." So they pretty much took those songs and that became Orgy of Murder. So little backstory for that. But shout out to Kyle. He did the lyrics and vocals, or the patterns and lyrics for Carnal Demise, and we're scared to play that because the vocals are so crazy. Like and the riffing's insane. But to do vocals over top of it, it's kind of like our big song, Dead. You know, I'm not gonna say the word, but one of our biggest songs. The vocals are crazy on that. Concubine of Despise. That song's crazy for vocals. There's a few songs where they haven't really been played too much. And Carnal Demise, we really want to play, but it'll be a feat just to be able to pull it off. So yeah,
Yeah.
and I want to play just because the solo I put in at the end of it, like I worked on that for like a month and a half, like because I'm a slow writer. When I actually have to like map out solos, like it's such a hard thing for me to do. I'm more of an improviser, like I'm a blues guy that just tries to throw arpeggios around a bit, but um, I'm super proud of the two solos I did on the Sadicist EP, and shout out to Kyle, like the Sadicist song. I was writing lyrics and just the way some of the riffing was. I was like, Sadicist would have been like the perfect like, and then I just asked him, and he allowed us to use that name because that was their band, Sadicist, and they he was kind enough to allow us to use that word, and it was just too cool of a name to not use as a song, and also pay homage to them. So shout out to those guys
Yeah. No, it
with
sounds like
shout out with my grapefruit beverage. Cheers,
oh, the
guys.
classic man. I haven't had a Fresca in quite a while. The logo
Oh,
looks.
dude, don't make fun of me, man. They're good.
No, I'm
I
not.
swear.
I would. I mean, I don't really drink a lot. I'm like, oh, like I try to be like health conscious nowadays. But that was definitely, yeah, had a lot of. The logo looks different than I remember it. That's how I know I haven't had it
I
in a
didn't know
long
you
time.
guys have that. I didn't know you had Fresca in the States.
Oh, we did. I remember having it when I was younger, but it's definitely not as common as like
Sure.
a
Other stuff.
Coke or whatever. I have a
Yeah.
thought. about. I just wanted to share with you because like with a band, like because it just kind of made me think of it because you're like, oh, I'm not gonna say the song title. I mean, like with brutal death metal. I mean, obviously, like it's sort of like not necessary, but like I mean, it's expected. That
Sure.
some lyrics and it started with Chris Barnes. I
Yeah.
guess you could say like that. Some lyrics are just like really extreme. And
Hmm.
and I, it's I've something. It's not like I think about it all the time, but like at times I'm like I just kind of think about and then one thought I have is that it's sort of like, well, there was a time where
Hmm.
Ozzy Osbourne was like people were freaking out over him or like or
Yeah.
over but it's like this is sort of my thought on it. Do you feel like perhaps like it's sort of like you could draw the comparison of like, man, that riff is so sick, like dude, that like for lack of a better, like dude, that's just you hear
Yeah.
suffocation, you riff, you hear spawn of possession, oh dude, that just hits,
Sure.
dude. Do you feel like it's almost like it's like you're going for that with the lyrics, like, man, do these lyrics make you squirm? Like, is that just like, does that like
Yeah.
make you feel uncomfortable a little bit? Like,
I
like,
think a lot of people probably do, but in the sense, I think so many people are desensitized to this stuff that it kind of doesn't even matter. And like, I don't know a lot of bands where they're just like fans are coming up to them like, ha 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 ha, like I love this. But I mean, Gorgasm, we have that a little bit because some of the lyrics are super funny because they're just so stupid. And I remember I should show you. I don't know where it is, but I have a binder when I figured out who's doing vocals. When I was in the band early on, Tony, I was at Damien's house. Tony came over and he had these binders and all the lyrics photocopied, and then we're gonna divvy up the vocals. I remember Coprophiliac. Damien just kept laughing, like he was crying so hard because there's one lyric that gets repeated like later. It's like even though you're dead, pouring shit in your head. Like it's just so dumb.
right,
And he's just laughing like a
right.
little kid, and he's like, and like we're like Tony and I are moving on to like we're like a paragraph down. Like yeah, okay, you'll do that, I do that, and then Damien just is still just laughing because it's just so dumb. And I think that's kind of a big unwritten thing with this music, especially with the Barnes stuff. Like they're just like, "Whoa, that's so crazy," and then they're just like, "Well," and it just opens Pandora's box. And then just because the extremities and when all the vocals are guttural, and then it's brutal death, and then all the lyrics are serial killer, and then it's just like in that shade. Um, and it's just kind of it's almost a homage to the old school death metal because like oh Morbid Angel was the most crazy like a cult band. They're like spiritual. Deicide was like actually evil. These bands were doing it like legit. And then if you're coming out and then Cannibal Corpse, then you're coming after them. It's like, well, if you want to be legit with those bands, you're gonna be as extreme as you can be. Like look at Devourment, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Like anytime I'm like, whoa, Gorgasm's crazy. It's like you look at a few other bands and you're like, oh, they're just doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to know them and hang out with them, and they're just like having Fresca too, like they're chilling out with their lattes and you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like it's funny how you know it is what it is, and you know I'm kind of tired of it in a way because it's like there's only so many times like we're trying to write song names and we're just like, well, we're using, like then you're using words that band used, and then you're just kind of regurgitating the same the same thing. But I mean, it's death metal. It's supposed to be perverse. It's supposed to be unnerving. It's a
Yeah.
horror soundtrack, so it's like that's what you sign up for, and that's kind of what it is. You can sing about other stuff too, and that's totally cool, But it's a funny thing that we all observe. So I'm glad
Yeah.
you brought.
Yeah, no, I just that's kind of how what I think about it. I'm just like, it's like if it didn't make you, I mean, of course, like you said, you dive, so you do such a deep dive into playing the music, and you've been listening to it for years, and you're just like, oh yeah, this is like, I've heard, this is whatever, this is just the style. If it's like, dude, we're like driving around listening to gangster rap, and we're like, I didn't
You're
I
you're
didn't
dude
grow
from
up.
Office Space. You're dude from Office Space driving to work,
Yes,
you
that's a
know,
perfect
growling
example.
or yeah, it's the exact same. Like
Yeah.
hilarious, man.
Right? Yeah, yeah. But yeah, man. I mean, come on, dude. And it's like there needs to be a bit of that punk or whatever, man. Just like, yeah, it's rock and roll,
That is
man.
true. And like, there's a great interview with name escapes me for some reason, drummer of Dying Fetus, where they're asking him about censorship, and he's like pretty much being like, "Good, if you're offended, good. Like, we don't care, you know." And it's kind of like that's the punk thing,
Mm,
and it's kind of true. And it's why art exists, because you're taking all this crazy reflections of life and it's just plastered on the canvas or whatever, but there's different connotations or undertones or deeper levels to it. That was the thing with Gorgasm, like the music when I first was getting into it, like the classical stuff. I'm like, oh, this is like beyond what I can do. This is like the next level of, and I kind of indirectly got into death metal because I wanted to play classical in my own way, but I didn't want to learn sheet music. I didn't want to like go conservatory. I wanted to be able to play a certain way. And the funny thing is, I play a V where I have to sit in a classical position.
mm,
That's the only way you can sit with a V,
yeah.
sitting down. And I've played the V for almost exactly 20 years. So that ability to bring the thumb around and the dexterity and so forth, that's classical music.
Hey, quick gear question. Like, I have a um only guitar I have ever had this problem with neck dive is BC Rich Ironbird, and I was able to solve that by just taking the screw off the body and putting it into one of the screws that bolt on the neck. That fixed it perfectly for me. Do you have
Yeah,
like
like the one by the neck, you rerouted that. Yeah,
I
that's
just took one screw out and put. I mean, I did like went down the rabbit hole online, and I'm like, okay, yeah,
sure.
that makes sense. I think I could do that without effing up my guitar, and that fixed it.
Yeah, I had an old Ibanez Xiphos that neck dove, but I was a little ignorant to modifications and I was low on money and I sold it, but that was a phenomenal guitar. So, yeah, neck diving. It is kind of weird though. Like I know guys that they'll get like a counterweight on the opposite side of the guitar and then
Mm.
try to balance it out. But um, yeah, I don't know. I don't. I like guitars that aren't too heavy. You know,
Yeah, that guitar
it's
doesn't look like it would be too heavy.
not too bad. No.
So it pretty
What's
much.
cool is
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
all
ahead.
my all my V's. They're like the same design, like model, and they're a few years apart, but they all feel a little different, like in weight, feel, and they're like they should be identical. Actually, I have five of them. I have a white one that I use for the Cannibal Corpse cover band I do, Assorted Meats. But yeah, each guitar is a little different, and they're more or less they should be pretty darn close, but they're different builds, different years.
I'm glad you brought that up. So you do them bones. Uh,
Alice in Chains, and quit. Sorry to interject. Them Bones is playing the Astoria this Saturday. I think it's July 17th is the date or 18th, but we're playing Say Hello to Heaven, a Chris Cornell tribute night. There's a phenomenal vocalist locally, Derek Lundland. Shout out to him. He does acoustic Cornell stuff, and then he does Audio Slave cover band Civilian. He does that as well. Them Bones, which I'm a part of. I do the Jerry Cantrell stuff, and then we have a Nirvana opener. So yeah, you get your Seattle fix.
yeah, and fitting because you said you're just north of Seattle.
Yeah, we deal with the same gloomy weather.
Excellent,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Um, and then so yeah, if you're doing Jerry
Like you said,
Cantrell,
assorted meats. I interrupted you. You were gonna bring up the Cannibal Corpse thing.
oh, definitely want to talk about that. But I was just thought it'd be interesting to talk about
Oh, sorry.
since the vocals you do, the clean vocals, since you're doing Jerry Cantrell stuff. Um,
Yeah,
it since I guess because as we talked about earlier, since you said you figured out early on, I better just learn how to sing and play. I guess
yeah.
that's probably not too much of an issue for you to go between the guttural style and the clean style.
I appreciate you asking because it's a rediscovery because with the picking hand and how demanding I play with death metal is that when you're grunting over it, it's very like staccato and primitive, and it's like din 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 din. Like you're doing certain syncopation where, and it's all like tension. It's all just through the diaphragm where when you're doing gutturals or whatever, you're bypassing your throat a bit. Like the end of your voice, the 5 to 10% is the bit of your vocal cord for growling. But the Alice in Chains was like me having to almost start over in a weird way because I've never sang clean much, outside of like on my own in the car or whatever, just trying to do stuff. So to like ring out chords with guitar and to sing a certain way, that was almost harder. But that's because I haven't spent as much time on the clean and playing guitar as I've done with the gutturals and singing. So it was just a new challenge. And I've always wanted to play other types of music. It's just singing in front of people is just scary for some reason because I'm just not used to it. So I wanted the Chains Them Bones project to be the perfect opportunity to just get in some sort of confidence with singing, and it's definitely a trip. It's definitely intimidating. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's rad, man. And then you get to harmonize with what's the name of the singer that for the
His name is Danny Echo, and I know him through work. We both work in the film industry, but he's a special effects coordinator. Shout out to Danny, phenomenal vocalist, and yeah, we've put a lot of time into doing this, and it's just been so much fun. I never thought I'd do a tribute band. People make fun of him, but he did a drunken post years ago around COVID, like, "Hey, somebody start a Alice in Chains cover band with me," and I saw it like 2 weeks later, and I had his number. I just called him, and he's like, "Oh, don't." I was just joking. It was a drunken post, and I was like, "No, we have to do this."
yeah.
Like kind of like Wayne's World, like build it and they will come. And I just realized how much. I mean, I don't even know if I'd be playing death metal if it wasn't for bands like Alice in Chains and Metallica. A lot of alternative rock of the '90s and grunge. I mean, that stuff's super heavy. And like I'm wearing the Dirt shirt. I mean, that's as heavy as hard rock gets without being metal. That and Bad Motorfinger, those are so heavy, so dark, but it's rock. It's like as hard as rock can get. And I always loved it, like bands like that, and even Tool. Like they're just rock bands. Like I don't think Tool's a metal band. I've never thought they are. I just think they're hard rock. But yeah, shout out to Danny, man. We've had a great deal of fun doing that. And the first song we actually played was "No Excuses," and that's actually some of the most involved harmonies. And we're like in our first session, going like, I don't even know if we can do this. Like we're like looking at each other, like it's all right. And then I go low, he goes high, and then there comes a time. Like we're just thinking, I'm like, man, this is hard. And but it's been a great learning experience for me. And shout out to all the drummers and bassists we've had. We've had a bit of a revolving door of a few guys, but Colin, Sean, Ryan, uh, and then Cy, another drummer. So yeah, shout out to all those guys, and of course Danny. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no, that's rad. Like, that you're had that opportunity to play the music that inspired you when you were younger, and to be hitting those harmonies. I mean, it's like one thing I've noticed in uh, taking gigs, with different people is they don't expect you to do the harmony a lot of times, and then you go to harmonize with them, and then it throws them off,
Hmm.
and then they start singing the same part as you or whatever. So whatever it is, that happens, I guess. But it's just so satisfying, right? Like when you hit those harmonies, right, and you hear it's like a that sonic. However, I can't really put into words, right? But it's just it's a vibe, right?
Resonates in the room.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And not to toot our horn, but we've had people be like, "Wow, you guys are better than Alice in Chains," and I'm like, "No, we're not. We're just doing the best we can, and we really practice and try to nail stuff, and you know, we're just a tribute band. We just have fun doing it." And I was actually meaning to ask you when you're playing. I don't know what it is with like covers, but you ever have fans that get into it like so crazy, and you're like you can't believe how much they're into it because it's just a cover band.
I mean, for me
Have you had
person,
that? Yeah.
yeah, like here and there, like you know, the well, I've sort of tried to get away, like personally. I had this. I'll try to put this in as few words as possible. I was teaching. It was like a classroom music teacher, and then I was like, I kind of had enough of that, and I'm like, though, if I'm gonna stop doing this now, I have to just go full force, and anything I can make money, doing
Yeah.
music, I'm gonna take the gig. Like no shame, dude. So I just
Yeah.
started going out and playing with any cover band I could. Still pursuing unpaid stuff, along the way. But like just stuff that I love, like metal or hardcore or punk, whatever.
Sure.
But you know, I figured out pretty quick that that's not really the best way to make the money, because like this
No.
one guys I was playing with, they were all doing like in-ear monitors, and at first I'm like, yeah, cool, I have some in-ear monitors, and this would probably behoove me later, like if I have a bigger opportunity to go out with some band or do some big show where in-ear monitors are necessary. But what that really involved at the end of the day was getting to the gig like 2 hours early to do all this setup, and then maybe the
Yeah.
gig's like an hour away. So it ended up being like 6 to 8 hours for $100. I'm like, dude, I ain't doing this no more.
Totally.
You know, that's where. Sorry, it's like a really long-winded way to answer your question, but I segued into doing more acoustic gigs, and
Yeah.
to kind of sort of answer your question, the the drunkest people, they really it's like I don't want to be mean, 'cause, of course, because they'll just be so complimentary, and they're just I'm just thinking like, dude, are you even gonna remember this tomorrow? But like,
Yeah.
man, like this one guy, like, I always put out a tip jar. I mean, he wanted to buy me beer. I'm like, yeah, I don't drink anymore. So he just
Yeah.
started tipping me, and then before you know, there's like $100 in the freaking tip jar. I'm like,
He's like, for
yeah. He's
yeah.
like, forget it. I'm just like, wow, thank you, man. Um,
Sure.
but yeah, like the best compliments I ever got is people told me that they're like that I could change my voice to fit the song. So like if it's a
Sure.
a country song, that I could kind of, without getting carried away, kind of like put a little hillbilly into it or a little twang.
Sure.
Um, I mean,
People
if
get
I
into
if
it.
I do a reggae song, I'm probably not gonna try to like sing it like I'm black, but or
Sure.
like I don't want to be like get carried away with it to where it's like corny. But like, yeah, I liked that compliment. I'm like, okay, cool. I guess I have a bit of command with my voice.
Dude, we've had a couple fans where it's usually Rooster or Man in the Box or like a deep cut. Like we always play Sunshine from Facelift.
Yeah.
We've had some fans where they're just like,
Mm.
and I'm like trying to sing, and they're like as you're going into a part, and I've like start laughing. I'm like supposed to be singing, and I'm just like just like cracking up. And like Rooster, there's one of the first shows we played. There's a bit of an older lady, and she's sitting down, and she's obviously a little inebriated, and we just started playing it, and she just starts leaning and just like hitting the table, just like I'm like I'm just trying to play this simple chord, and I'm like so distracted by this lady, and I'm like trying to not laugh because I'm like you guys care way more about this than I do, and I'm playing the thing. It's just kind of funny
Yeah.
sometimes. Uh, I don't know. With Gorgasm, I never get that because the adrenaline's so high when you're playing that fast that you're just like it's like a ping pong game. Like if the crowd's crazy, you're just like all right, and then you're just going at it. And like the last show we played in New Jersey, there's a handful of young kids in front of me, and they're going crazy. And I was like, man, I forgot. Like I'm older now. Like I forgot about like when you have that enthusiasm. If you got young death metal fans and they got that youth and they're going crazy, like you can't touch that, man. They're like that energy live in when you're on stage. It's really something else. So yeah, pretty special.
Hell yeah. And right now it's sort of surreal to see like um you know how many people are really, I guess you could like it's still underground music, but there's definitely a lot of new fans to
Yeah,
brutal death metal. Young
and
people.
you know what? You gotta give a shout out to Devin and Bog,
Mm.
Sanguizuga Bog. Like, I mean, when I was coming up and like I was into like even new metal bands, and that was getting me into heavy stuff. And I knew death metal a little bit, but you need those bands that you just kind of climb the ladder. Your Mastodons and Opeths and In Flames and melodic stuff and Demu. Like when I was coming up, all those bands were like everyone was getting into them, and I think because Bog, they're just such a good live band, and like people can really just relate to the authenticity of them, just being grassroots and self-made. And it's kind of like Cannibal Corpse. Like when Cannibal Corpse started, like the early videos, you see like the fans were just their friends, and they're just pumped that like Cannibal Corpse was so like crazy, and then they just kept riding that wave. And Bog has really just gone where when the iron's hot, they've just outworked every band they can and just plugged away with touring and playing with bands. And it's bands like that, and your Dying Fetus. As much as people hate them playing with other styles of music, it's like how many people have got into death metal because of Dying Fetus alone?
Oh
you know
yeah. I
they
mean,
play with like different bands, and then those fans see Dying Fetus and they're like, what is this? Because it's one thing to hear the music, but when you see death metal live, it's just game over. You're like, oh, this is how you're supposed to hear death metal, is live. It's just different. And but those bands are, I think, a big reason why younger fans are getting into it. And just social media in the modern day, kids are going to get into what they like, and it just gets heavier and heavier, I guess.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, with Dying Fetus, it's like, I mean, I don't, to me that makes sense because they've always had like a bit of hardcore elements, and then
Hmm.
there's that saying, like preaching to the converted. Um, it's like, yeah, I mean, there's a fork in the road. I mean, are you gonna? I respect both paths. Are you gonna be like a true underground? Like, well, no, we're protecting our image. We're only gonna play with such and such bands, or are you gonna be do what they did and they're like, well, no, we're gonna get some new fans because we know deathcore kids or hardcore kids
Yeah.
probably already like our music anyway.
Yeah, and
You
and
know?
hardcore has an advantage because of the crowd spectacle. It's not even that whether you're into it or not, it's just people flailing their arms. It's just a big scene, like visually. I think hardcore just has an element to it live that death metal and people just standing with their arms crossed. Well, those are polar opposites. And, it's like peeling flesh. Everyone goes to a peeling flesh show because they know the roof's going to collapse. Like people are just going to go bonkers. And that is an element of live music that you just cannot deny. When everyone knows, it's like old school death metal, like 90, 91, where everyone's just falling, like everyone's just crowd surfing and like broken arms and all that. Like that spectacle alone would have been just the most absurd thing ever. It would just like a battlefield. And death metal doesn't do that anymore. So it's like hardcore now is has a huge draw because it has that live element to it. And some death metal bands get crazy pits too. But I think people want to go to a party. They want to go to a show where things are going to go wild, and hardcore, they get into it. So, people that aren't even into hardcore might go to shows because it's just fun and something to do, you know? Where death metal, it's all musicians just like watching that 1/16th note if it was on time with the drummer or whatever. So,
Yeah, like I mean, dude, I could honestly agree with like points of either side. Like I'm 43 years old and like I'm not even like the old school. Like there's dudes that are like 10, 15, 20 years older than me maybe even um that would be even more um whatever, traditional than me, in
yeah.
their thinking. But like yeah, I mean, I definitely have my opinions that might fall more with that way of thinking of like, well, no, I'd prefer to like go to a show and have it be consistent like all death metal bands. But
Yeah.
then, yeah, like you said, I mean, dude, I think like a great example is like you were talking about, like going to a party. Like there's this video that's been circulating online with like this old obituary show,
Yeah.
and it's just like, dude, you just see, I don't know, if I had to guess, it's like 89, 90. It's like right around there, maybe. But it's just like, damn, I wish I was like a little kid. I was 7 or 8 years old, but man, to be at that show, like, dude, it's
Yeah,
it's definitely
it's probably that clip turned inside out, and it's just like just the crowd surfing, like everyone's just going for it, just launching, like not even thinking, just turning their back and like just going for it. And then Tardy's hair is like down to his hip, and he's just kind of like, it's just insanity.
yeah,
And I think you know the modern era with social media has taken away the mystique of death metal bands, where people see them, pictures with their cats or whatever. So like it's not necessarily bad, but a lot of death metal was the mystique of like, wow, look at that photo of Deicide. They look like convicts, this music's scary, and that's, you know, why people like black metal, because it just has this different mystique to it, even though there's social media now too. But I think all those things come into play. And yeah, it's just different eras, different generations of music, and what have you. But I know that, like, I grew up, our local venue, the Cobalt, they would have crossover shows all the time. So like a grind band, death metal band, punk band would play together. And I actually love that because instead of just having four death metal bands where there's like a quiet competitiveness of like, oh, we got to be better than this band, or, a healthy, competition, I guess. When you have, a mixed bag of bands, like a crossover show, it's like a punk band is not going to be like, oh, we got to be better than this grind band. They're just going to be the punk band, you know what I mean? And I've always liked, you know, other types of music. So as much as I love death metal, it's like the amount of festivals I've gone to where it's like 2 or 3 days of just brutal death. And I'm like, geez, like this is great, but it's just kind of like it's a bit much. And like Las Vegas Death Fest had a grind band from Finland. This is like 10 years ago, but I forgot their name. And just because it was grind and not brutal death, the crowd was like cool. Like people were like into it because it was just different types of drumming. It was like, a different feeling. And I think that's important. So
That's rad for because for them being that band is probably a bit intimidating. Like, oh, is everyone gonna
no, they're
not
they're
like
grind.
us?
They don't care. They don't care. It's grind. They're like, we're just gonna fucking play heavy, and there it is.
Yeah. Well, we can wind down the interview, but you know um yeah, we've been able to touch. Oh, the only other thing I didn't touch on with you, and I thought it'd be cool to tie in really quick. I had Dakota on the show, and that was what sort of prompted me to reach out to you in the first place.
Cool.
Dakota, who did vocals on the Sadistic
Sadistic.
Butchering. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
Yes.
So you guys uh are on the Be Killed single together.
Yeah, so that came about because John Hall, shout out to John, bassist of Gorgasm. His original band, his one man band, was Sadistic Butchering, and he had a bunch of songs that he was sitting on. And he hired that phenom Polish drummer, Klingbein. What's his Christoph Klingbin or Klingbein?
Yeah.
So he hired him, and then he asked me if I wanted to do leads. I'm like, sure. And that came about um, yeah, about a year ago. And yeah, I was actually going to reach out to John because I want to focus on the Gorgasm stuff, but it would be cool to do more sadistic butchering tracks. And I also did a live session solos for Volnus, a Greek band. So shout out to those guys. That's about a year old. So I only bring it up because that came about similar time as John reaching out for that single. Yeah.
Oh, cool. I'll have to check that out as well.
Yeah,
Um,
appreciate it.
but yeah, Dakota is awesome, man. He's done so many recordings, features, and I've interviewed him twice. And I'd love to, somewhere down the road have you come on again as well. Maybe with timing it strategically with the vacuous release or future Gorgasm material, what have you.
Yeah, I'd really appreciate that, man. And thanks for your time today to do this interview.
Dude, it's been rad, and like we kind of I can't I don't I think that was prior to the interview as well. Yeah, majority of the questions I ask you, like I'm for sure other people are gonna find some uh value in it as well. But I truly, from the bottom of my heart, however you want to say, like I really appreciate the talk, man. Like it's been super
Oh,
chill,
thank
like and
you.
really
Yeah,
interesting, um, yeah, really appreciate you, brother.
yeah, thanks. And it's good to properly meet you. And shout out to all the Cleveland locals listening, and all the Gorgasm fans, the few Vacuous fans, whoever knows that band. And yeah, thanks for all the support over the years. Everyone's been so kind, and I'm just lucky to play music, as I say. So it's just humbling experience just to play and meet so many people that have similar interests to the music as you do, Matt. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I'm gonna close out the interview for tonight. If you want,
Cool.
you can hang on the Zoom call for a second, and we'll just wrap up from there. But I'm gonna
Sure.
officially end this interview right now. Thank you,
Cool.
y'all, for tuning in to this episode of Heavy Rotation with Sasha. Say your last name for me again, please, brother.
Krosovich.
Sasha Chrosciewicz from Gorgasm, from Vacuous, from Sadistic Butchering, and them
Them
bone
Bones Saturday. We're playing Saturday, Astoria.
them bones Saturday. Assorted meats as well. Yeah, just look him up and get into the discography there. Oh, I just made the little thing come up on the end. Anyway, cheers. Wrapping up for
All
tonight.
the best.
Keep it
Take care,
heavy out
guys.
there. Be good to each other.
See ya.